I love indoor plants, but I often forget to water them. About a year ago, I made a self-watering planter that works brilliantly, but it was a bit complicated. So today I'm making a smaller, simpler version. Let me show you how. I'd like to use a special clay, but all I have is my white mid-fire. It's a bit bland, so I'm going to add my own speckle. I've chosen magnetite as my clay addition. I'm using magnetite iron spangle. I've done a little research and the general consensus is to start with a tablespoon per kilo of clay. I'm hoping that the magnetite will give me a light speckle similar to the clay I used in my honey pot video. This clay is where I got the idea to add magnetite to my everyday white mid-fire clay. So I've sandwiched the magnetite between pieces of clay and I smush it together. It's a pretty simple process, and after a bit more wedging, I'm ready. I need 600 grams of clay for the pot and 400 grams for the saucer. I'll start by making the saucer. So this is a simple throwing project. The key is getting the diameter of the rim of the saucer and the base of the pot the same size. So I center the clay. So I flatten the clay and open out. I compress the base. And now I'm ready to bring up the walls. So the making dimensions for the saucer are 120 millimeters wide and 60 millimeters high. And I pull the walls up to their final height. Then I smooth the walls with a rib and I set aside to dry to leather hard. So I center the clay. And when I push the clay down, I want to start with the clay at the same diameter as that of the saucer. I push down into the clay and open out. And then I pull up the walls. So the pot is the same diameter as the saucer, that's 120 millimeters, but the height is 95. And now to pull the walls up to the final height. And then I'll straighten those walls. And then I trim away an undercut. So this undercut fits down into the top of the saucer. I just check the measurement of the base with calipers. And then I wire through and set aside to dry. It's time to trim, and I just make sure that the pots fit together. I start by centering and securing the base. And then I just trim a little more around that undercut, just to make sure that it fits properly. Now using the pot as the chuck, I add the saucer and trim around the bottom edge, and then I trim across the base. And that's about all that's needed. Now I need 3 holes for the string to be threaded through. So the holes will allow water to be absorbed up through the string into the soil, keeping the plant uniformly watered but not overwatered. That's the theory. So I use my circle guide to work out 3 equal distances for the holes. And then a final check to make sure the pots fit together. Then I dry completely and bisque fire. Time to glaze, and I'm glazing the inside and outside differently. I'm using a white glossy glaze for the inside for functionality and different glazes on the outside. So I pour the inside and wipe around the edge. To keep the glaze from running out of the pot as I glaze, I use 3 small pieces of sponge. I also glaze the inside of the saucer in the same way. And to glaze on the outside, it's a simple dip. I'm using some different colours on the outside, but for the saucer, I'm going to leave the clay unglazed. So I can see that speckle. I can already see a little of that speckle in the bisque pieces. Now I'm still in 2 minds as to whether I'll fire together or fire separately. And I might just see how pieces fit in the kiln. And a glaze fire. So here are the glazed pieces. The magnetites really added a character to the clay. It's a fine speckle, and the pieces that are fired together fit together really well. So I cut 3 pieces of string and tie some knots. The string's about 10 centimeters, and I just tie some knots at one end and thread the string through. I'm actually using old shoelaces. And now I can plant. And here's an update on my original self-watering planter. And the peperomias in this planter are thriving. I add water to the saucer, and then I set the pot onto the saucer. If you find our videos useful, make sure to subscribe and comment and like below. It's always appreciated. And for a final update on whether to fire together or separately, well, the 2 on the right fired together and fit perfectly, but this one was fired separately and doesn't fit as well as I'd like. So I'm still on Team Fire Together. If you're keen on making this project, remember to click the link below and request our project sheet with dimensions. And why not check out the original video with a much larger self-watering planter. And as always, happy potting.